Rationalizing weaknesses is a topic that can be delved into a little bit. What does that mean? It means that um, oftentimes an individual understands, even if dimly and semi consciously or even unconsciously, that I have some or another weakness. I have some or another deficiency or inadequacy. But instead of bringing that into the light of full consciousness, instead of dealing with it forthrightly and in a constructive manner, what often can happen is that instead I suppress that awareness of my inadequacy and I begin to use my ratiocinative capacities, meaning my thinking capacities, to try to spin up a narrative, a worldview, a philosophy, such as does not implicate my inadequacy. And of course, the extent to which that is done and can be done is based on the cognitive powers at hand. So, for example, if somebody is not exactly Mr. or Miss super educated, then it could simply be that um, some kind of block view is quickly adopted that exculpates me. If I have more thinking capacities, I could even spin up a great, tremendous, super complicated philosophy exculpating my inadequacy, as has been seen, of course, no few times in the history of thought. What are some concrete examples? Let's say that a person feels um, disconnected from other people. That is quite common. A person feels unable to really feel at one with others, be those others family members, neighbors, or the concept of humanity at large. So, consequently, I may, if I am in some such condition or state of mind, have been told, or I may feel that that is less than perfect. That is less than ideal. Aren't we told, love your neighbor as yourself, be friendly, right? Love others. And yet that doesn't apply to me. So what's going on? So here, what there's a good chance it is that I'll do is that I'll suppress uh, that awareness, that sense that perhaps there's something wrong with me, perhaps I have this inadequacy, and instead I'm going to use my mind. I'm going to activate my cleverness to try to come up with some sort of scheme, such as will make that alleged inadequacy not such a big deal. For example, maybe I am educated, right? I'm a professor of uh, chemistry, of brain science, not to pick those things out of physics. So I say that um, really, there's no really such thing, or there's no such thing really, should we say, as human beings. What there really is just a bunch of matter arranged in a certain sort of way. It's all just chemicals. You know, what you call love or what you call affection and a feeling of unity, that's just the certain sort of hormone coursing through your veins. Or I may say, there's really just atoms and their arrangements. If I'm a physicist, what you think are people, okay, fine, we can entertain that juvenile uh, fancy. But in reality, as a physicist, I can tell you, you're just a bunch of atoms, I'm just a bunch of atoms, and so on. So see how here I did not um, bring that feeling of inadequacy into consciousness and ask myself, why is it that I feel alienated from other people? Um, how does that implicate my attitude? What sort of psychological, perhaps embarrassing, undesirable realities does that point to? What I did was suppress it and then come up with something, some context, such within which really I'm not inadequate, such within which I'm not missing anything at all. In fact, I might be superior because I see things for what they are. I know that people are just a bunch of chemicals or people are just a bunch of atoms. And these other people that feel connected to each other, that feel love for each other, they don't know that. Right? They're delusional. Actually, I'm superior. That's right. That's the narrative. A person may, for instance, feel, um, again, great hatred towards just in general, perhaps, and then needs to find an appropriate receptacle. Instead of facing that and saying, I feel hatred, why do I feel hatred? What does that say about me? I heard somewhere that really good people don't feel hatred, so maybe I'm not such a good person. Instead, I can try to find an apt target and then rationalize it and say, really, it's because uh, this group is such and such, and it has nothing to do with me. It only has something to do with you. Excuse me, and so on. A person may um, feel a continual sense of hopelessness, despair, lack of um, initiative and energy in life. And instead of asking oneself, what is it about me that makes me like this, that has me be like this? I can see from a brief examination of history and the present that there are at least some people, sometimes, that are incredibly optimistic and energetic and driven. Why am I not like that? What's going on? Perhaps it's a physiological thing. Perhaps I need to balance my hormones, or I need to um, change my diet, change my sleep. Perhaps it's a psychological thing. I have faulty ideas about the world and about my expectations concerning the world. Perhaps a mix of both. Perhaps it's something else. Let me take a look. Let me admit this inferiority to others that don't have these problems and see what can be done. But instead, of course, what often happens is that I all of a sudden become some or another sort of, say, quote unquote, nihilist, some or another sort of pessimist. Oh, this has nothing to do with me. The world is objectively evil. It's just objectively meaningless, objectively purposeless, and consequently, in fact, I and people with my attitude are superior because we see things for what they are. We're realists. Right? And that's why I can't get myself to do the slightest thing to improve my situation in life. I can't get myself to better myself at all. I'm just a realist. I just know there's no point. I just know that the world is an evil, dark place. And that's that. Obviously, these examples could be multiplied endlessly, but those should suffice to get the idea of what is meant. We have some kind of inadequacy, we have some kind of shortcoming, we have some kind of weakness, we have some kind of character flaw. Instead of facing it, instead of sincerely addressing it in a constructive, critical manner, we suppress that awareness of inadequacy and instead use our minds to reformulate our conceptions to our capacities. I'm a little bit smarter. I make things more complicated. I'm a little bit the opposite of smarter. I make things less complicated. But all the same, I use my mind to reformulate my conceptions so as to, at the very least, exculpate myself, meaning to say, I'm not inadequate. And even better, to actually make myself superior because of my given inadequacy, because of my given fault or weakness. I'm actually better. And that obviously can go as well for things such as, for instance, I have no particular um, predilection or capacity for some particular thing, such as I'm not in shape. I'm actually better for that. Those people that are in shape, they're wasting their time. I'm not educated. I'm actually better. Those educated people are all a bunch of arrogant people. Or I'm not. I'm not employed. Oh, those suckers that are working, they don't know that there's no point. I don't have a home. Oh, those people that have homes, they're so stupid. Right? I'm poor. Oh, those rich people, man, those rich people are just horrible. Never mind that if I had the opportunity to get rich or to have a home or to be fit or to be educated, whatever the case might be, I would jump on that opportunity. And then I would have to do some mental uh, sophistry, some juggling to figure out how the two things can line up. And that happens sometimes, interestingly enough. A person spends years condemning the quote unquote rich and then becomes rich. What now? Well, I'm not really rich like those people. Those people are, born rich. And so instead of this nonsense, whenever we feel that we have some sort of inadequacy, we have some kind of deficiency, we're missing something, be it by the way of our character or personality or mind, or by the way of particular accomplishments in life, simply bring it to the surface. It's okay to experience a little bit of pain. It's really no big deal. Bring it to the surface, examine it, and think constructively and critically. What does this say about me? Can I improve or not? If I can't, no big deal, moving on. If I can, let's do it. Let's improve. Instead of beginning to spin up tall tales in order to make myself feel better. So we can think about it. Thank you for listening.